Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making this place, coastal Mississippi, and the state of Mississippi, for that matter, such a great place to live, work, and play. Isn't it amazing that 2022 has already passed? And as I said on my outdoor show the other day, I can remember in January saying, where did January go? And now I can say, honestly, that where did 2022 go? I think it's a little bit the pandemic, a little bit coming out of the pandemic. But if you look back from 2019 to 2022, it was really on sort of warp speed. That's what I would like to say. I hope 2023 slows down for everyone and they have an opportunity to reach their goals and then, look around their family and friends and take it all in and appreciate the moment, which is really kind of a theme here on Coast Vue. I had a lot of fun getting ready for the show just now because, as most of you know from past conversations, I'm a former drummer. I loved playing the drums for many years. Like to get my drumsticks out every now and then, which I did in just a second ago. And I had my friend Steve Azar, who's got his guitar in his lap, the music and cultural ambassador for the state of Mississippi, singer-songwriter, and just a dear friend. He's also has In a Mississippi Minute on SuperTalk. But anyway, it's been kind of fun to kind of share notes, hasn't it, buddy?
You know what, you were playing some mean sticks on whatever the table that was, and I was in shock. I didn't know. So you see that? I did not have a clue that you could do that. I mean, that's amazing. Anyway,
yeah.
The things that we learn from being on our shows,
It is. Listen, my mother was a piano teacher when I was growing up, and she was very, very accomplished piano teacher. And I kind of picked up the piano. I don't remember much about it. I never took formal lessons because I got kind of hung up on drums, but I could play the blues and sit down even today and play a couple of songs that make you think I'm really a good piano player, but I'm not really. I just remember a few things and that impress. But I was a pretty good drummer, actually. So I enjoyed drumming.
Unbelievable. I love that your mom saw the need because you were so well-rounded, athletically, obviously intellectually, but to know that the arts and music was so important. Was she definitely the cornerstone of the family of the arts? What was your dad into?
My dad was sort of the patriarch of our family. My dad unfortunately died when I was 21. He was 44 years old when he passed away.
So young. Yeah.
Yeah, so young. And of course, my mom became sort of the center of our family at that time. But, it was never the same again. When you lose your father at a young age and
sure.
I have three sisters, it was a tough time for us. But the reality is, you find a way to move forward, and the inspiration that he was, and my grandfathers and my grandmothers, we had such a wonderful family with the wisdom of so many of the elderly Matthews and Maddoxes and others that really had a great impact on all of us. We all turned out to be pretty well-rounded people.
Yeah, well, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. There's been enough time go by and enough proof in the pudding, as they say. You've done a heck of a job. You've done a heck of a job living. I can tell you that.
Well, listen, man, it's exciting that you're with me for the first show because,
I love it.
If you look back over the last couple of years, you and I have had a fun journey together. You and your show In a Mississippi Minute, you have these wonderful conversations with people that are well known from across the United States, and you have such a wonderful way that you do those conversations. First of all, you do your homework, and that's clear. But the other thing that hits me is that you're friends with all these people that you interview. You've come across them, and whether it be on the road, or whether it be through your nonprofit work, or whether it be you providing your expertise to their nonprofit work, you've met a lot of people, and you connect well to people, don't you?
Well, it's athletics, really, to be honest with you, more than music. Well, because we were still competing on the musical stage somewhat. I was never competing with my songwriter friends, but when it got to be on stage, I felt like we were sort of at game time, right? We were in the huddle, and you had that moment to sort of do your thing. It wasn't that you were trying to be better than everybody. You were trying to be better than yourself the last time. You were trying to that's all you cared about. How good can we be tonight compared to last night? And that was the game. But then, of course, you had that competitive edge. But the game of golf and playing a lot of basketball in Music City, when we could, when our bodies could make it up and down the floors, were the two sports that allowed us to kind of spend once a week together, sometimes 2-3 times together on the golf course. Basketball was always once a week, and we would go at it. And you'd never know if it was Chesney in there or, there was just, I remember all my songwriter buddies coming in, telling me about the cuts that they had just gotten. And of course I was just trying to be the songwriter that wrote the songs for myself, and they were just songwriters. So, I remember Gordon Kennedy came in and he goes, we were about to tip off, and he goes, "Hey, Steve," I said, "What?" He goes, "I just got a Eric Clapton cut and a Wynonna Judd cut on one song." And I said, "Well, what is it called?" He goes, "It's called Change the World." And I went, of course it became this huge hit. And we were just so happy, but sports wise, in these charity events, playing golf, I'm going to get to the answer here, of just meeting on, and a lot of actors and comedians and just talented folks, and sponsors, because our charity events based off of people we've met from somewhere else. And it just gives you a lot of time, like with you and hunting and fishing, a lot of time to spend to get to know someone, and you either know you love them or you don't, and that's it, and then when you do, it's forever.
You're great. You're really good at connecting with people, and through the connections you make with people throughout your life, which again, you're very empathetic. You care deeply about the people that you come in contact with. That helps you be a better songwriter, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I think that first of all, you got to be very vulnerable. We've talked about this. I think if you can be vulnerable, you have no choice but to tell the truth, So, and I think that that's the part of a songwriter, that once you've allowed that in and you've allowed vulnerability to take place, then the only thing that can come out is this place where I think is pretty warm and fuzzy. And I think people gravitate toward that, especially when they're listening to music. You listen to music why? To make yourself feel all these emotions, this whole gamut of emotions. And so as a songwriter, you have to be that to be able to allow the audience to come into your world. And otherwise you got no shot.
Yeah.
I feel like you don't. I mean, I always write from a place of substance. I feel like sometimes I can get too heavy, but that's what moves me. That's what, but I still like to have fun with it at times. But I could be a little lighter on subject matter sometimes, but part of the deal.
You've got a wide range of music, and I would encourage people to go to your favorite, music platform and look up Steve Azar and listen to his music. In the early days, I think it was a little bit, maybe some renegade in you in the early days,
I was called outlaw in Nashville.
Mix of country and music, a little heavily influenced by blues. I think of some of your stuff more recently, like Cold Water with Cedric, as sort of very classic, kind of getting back to your roots kind of music.
Well, let me tell you that when Charlie Daniels calls you outlaw, you know that you're an outlaw. He used to call me outlaw. I love Charlie. Shared the stage a bunch of times with him, and it was one of those awesome moments. But he was a great guy. But that I go, why is he calling me outlaw? But what the funny thing was, because I was playing all these Mississippi-inspired songs I wrote at probably the strangest places, because everybody, but people were reacting. You know what I mean? Like, and boy, it's a good thing that I didn't go into this overthinking it, because if I did, I would have never found myself. I was just naive enough and probably just dumb enough, which I think you have to be, to just really believe in what I was wanting to say. Yeah. And I think that was an important thing. I mean, there's been some shows at Porter Wagner. I got into it with Porter Wagner. I had some moments, but I felt like he was really wrong for what he did. And maybe I'll tell you guys on the show, but I can't tell you what I said to him. That would be the other Steve.
I actually want to hear that. So we're getting close to the end of the segment, but on the other side, I'd love to hear that story, because he was a part of the old school country music scene.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you had that connection with Charlie Daniels. When I had Brad Arnold from Three Doors Down on the show, he told the story of when he was in Japan. He called Mr. Charlie, and it was Charlie Daniels and his wife that helped Brad Arnold seek help for sobriety.
Wow.
And it changed his life.
Yeah.
He came home and it literally changed his life. And that video and the series of videos that came out of that from that Coast Vue session that I had with Brad has been viewed over 60,000 times. It's just
those are real things in life that you pull for. I mean, those are the beautiful moments in life, and I love hearing that he reached out to Charlie.
So we'll hear the Porter Wagner story. I'd like to hear that, and we'll talk about how writing this new state song for Mississippi, One Mississippi, has changed Steve's life. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have my friend Steve Azar, the music and cultural ambassador for the state of Mississippi, singer-songwriter. Spends a lot of time just giving to charities across the United States, and he's wrote the state song for the state of Mississippi. So we're just catching up. Oh, in addition to that, he has In a Mississippi Minute here on SuperTalk Mississippi. So just a great guy, and he's become a really good friend. Hey, when we went to break, we're talking about Porter Wagner. Well, first of all, for people who don't know who he is, because younger people who may be listening to this don't know the name. So who is Porter Wagner?
Well, in his time, he was an outlaw, a true groundbreaking Renaissance man in country music, right? Wore the crazy suits with all the glitter and all that. And so many have followed, right? And it's just I have an interesting story. I was playing his show on national TV at the Opry. He had sort of his show on the Opry on Friday night. I think it was a Friday night. And we were rolling. And one of my songs that I played live, it's all about the musicians. In fact, the first time I ever played the Flatlands was when Stevie Ray Vaughan passed away, and I was asked to do the tribute at the Delta Blues Festival. So I played Pride and Joy, and I played Flatlands, and I was young. I was very young, probably was not in college yet, so I was in high school. I think I was in high school. No. I was just out of college, actually. I got to get my years right. Anyway, long story short, I found myself, we had played it all over the country, and even Mississippi Rising, we had done it, when we did the deal for Hurricane Katrina. And it was just one of those things that got people going, but it talked about us in Mississippi. So I decided, I think it'd be a good song to do. And the Opry, it's a little loud and a little fun, and a little rambunctious, and probably too Delta blues. But we played it, and we got a standing ovation. Everybody's on their feet, right? And then all of a sudden, I hear, when I'm walking off, I thought we were at the Grand Ole Opry. And he starts to go, man, country music. I thought we were at the Opry. So he was really on TV, right? So I'm walking off stage and going I'm not hearing that, right? Because this, as they say, proof is in the pudding, right? We talked about earlier. I'm thinking everybody loved it, which they did. So the next day, we have to do 2 shows. The next day, I go there. And it's not the televised portion. It's just Saturday night. And I'm in my Opry room, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I get a knock on the door. It's Porter's manager. He went, Porter would like you to come apologize to him. And I went, apologize for what? And so he goes, well, you played that song on his show yesterday. And I started going I remember Porter being pretty edgy back in the day. But so I said, okay, so I get up, but I didn't have apologizing on my mind. I was going to get him. So anyway, so I come out, and the head of the Opry, Pete Fisher, knows me. And he goes, Steve Azar, don't you do it. And my brother Joe is there, and they're going, Steve, you got to calm down. And I said, you tell him the only reason he wears those suits that shine is because he needs whatever it is to help him shine. I said something like that. And I said, you can go tell him I was on a roll. And and I said, if I go back there, he doesn't want me to go back there. So anyway, I was going this song's about my Mississippi home. And I took it personal, you don't mess with Mississippi. And I'll never forget it. And I was like, they were having to pull me off of him. But I know I was wrong. I should have been taking the higher road, but he was wrong for not understanding that crowd were on their feet and they loved the lyrics. It talks about Amazing Grace everywhere, and it's a jam song. If nobody's ever heard my version of Well, it's my song Flatlands. Go to Delta Soul Volume 1 and listen to Flatlands. If you're from Mississippi, the last thing it says is welcome to Mississippi. So it bothered me. It was like he was beating on my little brother, right? That song was my little brother. And he
I
was
love
messing with
Flatlands,
Mississippi.
incidentally. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
Flatlands. And in your
So anyway.
yeah, in your album of your collection of Mississippi songs, it's one of the highlights in my opinion.
Oh, that's right. It's on my Mississippi reunion as well. Exactly.
So let me show you a picture. I'm going to show you a picture. What is this picture? Can you tell who that is?
Yeah, that's Porter, isn't it?
No.
Wait a minute, I can't see.
Hank
there you
Williams.
Are. Oh, that's Hank right there. Yeah, because Porter
there?
would have been wearing some shiny stuff.
And to his right, all the way to his right, there's a guy there with a hat on. I guess they all have hats on. That's my uncle, R.D. Nord. He played fiddle for Hank Williams.
For Hank?
Yes, in the 1940s. So he was part of the Drifting Cowboys.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
It's a great connection, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, I respect Porter, by the way. I was just competitive that night.
Yeah.
So just, sometimes you have to do it. So, but I do respect him. I do feel like he sort of pushed he forgot about what got him where he got, a little bit. And Flatlands to me is lyrically is as beautiful as it gets. It's honest. It's real. It just rocks a little more than what he was used to. That's all.
I love Flatlands. What a great song it is. As you think about your life since Our Amazing State passed your song, One Mississippi is the new state song, it has been a hell of a ride for you, hasn't it?
It's been the coolest thing. People are starting to buy sheet music now, bands, marching bands. But, we got the children's book where Sarah Frances Hardy has just been sending me pages, and it's unbelievable. She's created these 7 beautiful children, and they're portraying the words. I can't wait for you to see it in the state of Mississippi. But also, I'm getting all these emails. The other day, I got a text from my brother in Batesville who said someone in Jackson sent him this. It's their daughter, and she's listening to the song Singing One Mississippi because it's part of a homework assignment. And that was always the goal, right? And I visited probably 5 or 6 schools total so far. And I think when I visit, they leave and they start to work on the song. So I may have to visit every school. But yeah. I mean, it's, me. Come on. I mean, it's, let me just say this. Flatlands, I didn't go in the room with Porter, but if he would have said something about One Mississippi, I'd still be on top of it. Because that's how much I love our home, and I just feel like what a blessing. Well, so it says blessing.
It is. And for people who don't know this, who are listening to Coast Vue, mm-hmm. I reached out to you as we were developing the new format for SuperTalk Outdoors. And my first thought was, Steve, do you have a song that really celebrates the outdoors? And you said, I don't know, let's go look at the catalog. Because how many songs have you written, incidentally?
Oh, I mean, if I say 1,000, I'd be understating. So thousands. I don't know. If you start saying thousands, maybe they haven't lived long enough. But I mean, I'd write 80 a year forever. So I wrote a lot of songs.
Yeah.
Who knows? A lot of songs.
So anyway, after I made the request, we came together, and I had been listening to One Mississippi, the video that you had done, the original video that you had done when the governor asked you to write this special song for sure. This very important occasion for Mississippi. And I heard those magic words that were dealing with, the outdoors. I mean, it was in the song. And I said, well, why don't we use One Mississippi, Steve? It's got a great line in it about the outdoors.
Isn't it funny? You had to make me aware of it. I was going like, what? When you're writing songs, sometimes you just see everything as one. You don't see the individual lines. You see. So if you go, Steve, what's the line in the third? I'd have to go in and I have to go look it up. I mean, but if you just said go play it, it's one body of work. So right. It's interesting that you were able to find that, but I wasn't. It's so much fun. It's so funny.
It is a special song that covers so many elements that are great about Mississippi, and as you and I ultimately agreed that particular stanza was perfect for Super Talk Outdoors, and I get to
Yeah.
listen to it every week. I get to listen to your voice and One Mississippi every week
Oh man.
because it's the theme song to Super Talk Outdoors, and I love talking about it. I mean, at least every other week, I bring people's attention to the fact that you are my friend, and you wrote this amazing song. It is now the state song for Mississippi, and I'm privileged to have it as the theme song
Oh
for
man,
Super Talk
I'm honored.
Outdoors.
I'm grateful and honored. I'm humbled, and every other word that goes with that, for
When
sure.
you go back, though, and we've chatted a little bit about this, but the fact is, when you're out and about, whether you're in Mississippi or not in Mississippi, in some other state doing charity work or whatever it is, people are generally touched by the reality that you are the author. You're the one who wrote the state song for Mississippi, and they're touched by it, aren't they?
Well, I can tell you this: they are really, and my songwriter buddies are all like, come on, like you got to be kidding me! Like they're just like going like, it matters to them as well, and they've been very kind-hearted, kind words. Fellow artists, same as well. All the fellow artists that have jumped in and helped me with it, as far as celebrating it. Um, it's been really cool. The crazy thing is, I've been in different states, and you get a standing ovation when I play. I say I'm not going to play it, and I go, well, I'll play it. They, oh, please play it. I'll sort of, and then all of a sudden I'll play it, and they'll be on their feet, and I'm like, this is wild, and I love that. And one of my most Shazam songs last week on Apple was one Mississippi in Spain.
What?
In Spain, so yeah, it's one of my most Shazam. A lot, like 3 days, it was Shazam, like not 200-300 times, but like 50.
Yeah, that's
50
awesome,
times
though.
in a
That's incredible to
3 day
know that.
stretch in Spain, and that's
Yeah.
in 3 days.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're visiting with Steve Azar, the music and cultural ambassador for the state of Mississippi, music songwriter. Spent a lot of time in Nashville, came back to Greenville, his home, writing from there and doing amazing things from there. He wrote the state song for Mississippi and has in a Mississippi Minute here on Super Talk. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have my friend Steve Azar, the music and cultural ambassador for the state of Mississippi. He's a singer-songwriter. He has In a Mississippi Minute here on Super Talk Mississippi. Steve, I know you do this too, but it's interesting that during the break, some of the most interesting conversations take place. And sometimes you wish the recorder was playing. But you and I, we were talking about Fred Hayes and Apollo 13, and Fred Hayes being from Biloxi. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with him here. And you said, isn't it cool that we get the opportunity to talk to people like that? And I agree completely. The chance to learn from them and to hear their story, because there are people like us that had a dream and sought to reach their dream.
Sure.
But it's cool that the way we were sharing stories about that. But one of the great things about In the Mississippi Minute is you get a chance to really drill down in a long format show like Coast Vue and get to know the essence of people. Isn't that neat?
It's been the greatest reward, right? You can't tell me that's not, and that's nothing that I thought of when I went in. And when I knew I was going to be asking questions, and it took me a while to learn that you didn't have to always be funny, or didn't have to always, you need to listen. My buddy Gary Valentine from the King and Queen says, Steve, I think you're pretty dang good at this. You seem natural, but why don't you listen? Try to listen a little more. Don't worry about being funny or don't. And I said, okay. And but it took me doing my interviews with both of my dads on Father's Day weekends. On that weekend, I want to celebrate them both. When I went straight from celebrity world to them, and people, I got crazy responses. And what was awful was I was learning things about my father-in-law. I've been married 33 years, and my dad, who I've been on this earth for 50-something years, and I never knew that I never knew, and that was awful. That means I never took the time to ask them, or either they just didn't have the time to tell me. Yeah. But the truth was, that was my awakening right there. And I find, like you do, we talked about this off the air, but for our listeners out there that are listening, you all have a great story to tell. I find that it's the people that aren't as famous sometimes, that the world doesn't know, but maybe a family does, right? Or maybe a fire station knows, or a police station, or a town, or a community, or whatever they know, and they're characters in a way, right? And they can tell their story like nobody else, and they've got a great story to tell. And when that story comes on our shows and on our airways, and it's from Mississippi, right? Well, it's a touchdown, right? I'm in awe.
There's so many examples, and oftentimes the ones that inspire me the most. Not that I'm not inspired by all my guests. Don't get me wrong.
Sure,
I mean, they wouldn't be
are
on the show if I didn't get inspired by them. But,
right.
But you're thinking about sort of deep inspiration that comes from guests. And one comes to mind. It's a young woman who, her name is Abby Wills, and she has a boutique, a children's boutique in Pascagoula. And, her family's involved in it. She's got a couple of young children, but she's really, she built this business during the pandemic, and she's focused on age-appropriate clothing for kids. I think infant to age 14.
Wow.
And she's had so much success connecting with the people that buy their clothing from her. She actually ended up opening a brick and mortar store.
Wow.
In Pascagoula. And to hear her story and her passion behind it and her ability to communicate her mission, and to know that why she got into business because she couldn't find age-appropriate the kind of clothing she wanted for her children, so she built a business around it. To me, that's inspiring. Those are the people who are contributing to the baseball teams and, building great businesses in places like downtown Pascagoula that's got this wonderful sense of place that's developing. I love those stories. I love telling those stories. And when Kyle and I got done, we both looked at each other and said, wow, I really genuinely enjoyed telling Abby's story.
Yeah, I walk out until I don't have Kyle. I wish I had a Kyle. I have Gwen, my wife. When I walk out of my studio, I look at her and go, "You want?" And she's looking at me like, "Okay, here he comes again," because I'm really blown away. I'm truly blown away by the stories that we get to share with all of Mississippi and beyond, our nation, and on a national level with the podcast. And I just think that it's been a wonder, right? It's been a gift to us at this point in our lives, right? In our careers.
It has been.
It has.
It has literally been a gift. And I think about Steve Davenport and Kim Dillon.
Oh, yeah.
And they're the company that they've built in SuperTalk Mississippi Media, this multimedia company that has incredible digital business, and their radio company. They have a news network that goes to nearly 50 radio stations across the state of Mississippi. And what's interesting is I came from a world as a publisher where ethics and integrity were the most important things. I mean, it was, I actually learned early in my career that everything is negotiable except your integrity. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
I've done over 800 shows, literally 800 shows. And never one time in those 800 shows has Kim or Steve told me to take a specific view or to take a specific approach or don't take a specific approach, or to have a specific guest. Not one time have they ever done that.
Yeah, I agree.
The integrity that they bring to the table is unparalleled in my career.
They trust us. Well, I think that we've given them reason to trust us, who we're having, right, and what we're talking about. And because I don't think they're not just letting anybody. I mean, that's what I feel flattered that they allowed you and me, who didn't have radio shows for you. We were in different parts of media. We understood media. You obviously understood the print media better than anybody, and I understood the printing of music pretty dang good for a while. And I hope we both still do in both of those regards. But yeah, this is a totally different avenue. It's the wrong side of the microphone, as I call it, which is really the right side, the other side of the microphone. And it's been spectacular. So yeah, Kim and Steve and Will, in the beginning I kept going, Will, and Will goes, just do what you're doing. He gave me the rope to hang myself, and I guess I'm still trying to figure out how to hang myself. But the truth is you're right about that. They've been very, what do you call it? I'm trying to find the words. You just said it.
But I think trusting with a lot of integrity.
Trusting with the time.
Yeah.
that people are advertising and all. I mean, it's amazing.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Some people would think that because SuperTalk some of their shows tend to be conservative. That's not what you and I represent in terms of our shows. We're broadly talking to people regardless of their political point of view. But the point is that they're not selling our shows. In other words, there's not, they don't go and create a package and say, okay, we're going to allow you to be on Ricky's show. And 800 shows, that's never happened. They protect the integrity of my show. They don't need that. They know that by building quality in the work that we do and our ability to talk to the state and to talk to our regions and in some respects talk to the nation, that we can do that responsibly. And that they trust us to do it, and they're not trying to guide us. That's the point I'm trying to make. They're not trying to guide us politically or otherwise.
Right. I love that. Well, I think that you and me could run a pretty good race of being able to talk to anybody. It's how you and I are built. But I think at some point, if we get really high up on some totem pole of intellectual, when it becomes the IQ reaches a certain level, this is yours, buddy. You get it. I'm going to watch. You.
Well, here's one last point I'll make, though, is that this is important for me, or I wouldn't be doing this gig. The truth is I wouldn't be doing this gig because I come from a world where we have to live beyond reproach, and ethics and integrity are incredibly important. But I think, the ability, I have the freedom, for example, when it was time to change the state flag, no one was directing me. I was proud of Kim and Steve and SuperTalk for working really hard to change the state flag, but I had my position on that, and I shared that position passionate. In fact, I went back and listened to it today, for a matter of fact. I was proud of how strong I came out and how early I came out to do that. When it was time to change the state song,
you were on
no one
me.
was directing me to be all over it. Yeah. But once again, my passion for that paralleled well with SuperTalk's passion for that, because they felt it was the right thing to do too. Not necessarily because Steve Azar had a show on our deal. You had written that song. That song was canned.
I wrote it for the right reasons. But
it was a strong contender.
Instrumental in that guidance of that. I'll always be grateful for you for that, because, I turn to my friends and people that know more than I do when it comes to especially that side of things. I know how to work a record, but this mattered to me way more than working some record. This was not just some record. This was the only shot with this record. Songs eventually can find a home. The only home for One Mississippi was where it wound up. And that was, so I'm very grateful. And I really am grateful for you, my friend. I can promise you that.
I never, it's interesting, Steve. I never know where our conversations are going to go, but I'm really glad to hear you and me in this moment put a stake in the dirt around how much freedom we have to do a great job in our shows, how much freedom we have to tell the stories and have the positions that we take from time to time that are important to the state. And the fact that we're not directed to do that tells me that we're part of a company that cares incredibly a lot about diversity of opinion, and they get it. They get it. Anyway, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Steve Azar. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue once again. The best conversations happen during the breaks. Steve and I are so passionate about this state. And, we do it for the same reason, Steve. You do it because you care deeply about this state and you love telling the stories about this state. There are stories that are interesting to this state that are stories people can be inspired by. And I've created Coast Vue because I had this opportunity in retirement to tell the stories of so many people, including yours, about people who care deeply about this state and deeply about coastal Mississippi and who are making a difference. And it's fun to hear me and Steve, when we're not on the air, talking about how passionate we are about that. That's pretty cool. I hope it continue to feel that same way. I mean, I can do this for a long time. I've often said that if I get tired, I'll just, fade off into the sunset and be retired again. But I don't see that happening anytime soon, because I feel like what you and I are doing is making a difference.
Well, we're letting everybody in, that's for sure. And we're not, that's the bottom line. But you've made me aware of that. Because, once again, it's like you telling me, hey, Steve, you got lines in your song. I said, really? I just see it. It's funny how my mind works compared to yours. I mean, you've had to, I've ran a band and you've ran a business. And although my band has been a business, I've always had people around me that are smarter than me at certain things. And I've learned from them and I've paid attention. And my hands are in, and my head is in more of the business than most people think. But with that said, yeah, you made me aware of some things, and that freedom of getting to do what we get to do is the true reward in what we get to do. And that word trust is
it's a big deal.
I mean, trust, we got to find a new word because trust doesn't even feel big enough or accurate enough.
I wouldn't be involved in this company if at the base of its principles, if what didn't exist is a firm base of integrity, I wouldn't be here. That's the reality.
That's the word you used it earlier. Integrity is it. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, that says it all right there. And you said that's what you based your entire media career on, and it's a big deal.
Hey, so Steve, where are you sitting right now? Are you in your studio?
I'm in my studio. I'm in. I got a lot of memorabilia and pictures from doing anthems and Reba McEntire gold records over there, and there's all sorts of stuff.
You collect guitars, right?
No. These guitars I've all grown up and playing. I mean, these are nothing in here except there is a Tito's guitar that was given to me, but the rest of them are real guitars that I've played all over the America and the world. And there's 5 of them that are retired that are hanging up above our dining room. And then there's another. I have stacks everywhere, but in the studio I probably got like about 20 something in here. I guess I can't count too well.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, and I see a little tribute to Jim Henson behind you.
The Muppets, baby. Look at it. And that $20 bill is from one of our big donors of the Delta Soul. Do you see the 20?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
the $20 bill. Every year we've Delta Soul. One of our big donors. We bet whoever loses has to pay the $20 and sign it. And it lives in either his place in Kentucky or my place here. And so I'm the winner this year of the, in fact, we won our own tournament this year. So it was good.
So how we kind of wind this down and think about the new year. I really think that some of your best writing years are still ahead of you because you're a prolific writer. Do you have some songs that you've been working on that they're just like, I like this song?
We're about to do a 20-year anniversary release of I Don't Have to Be Meat on Monday. I recorded it with my buddies at Pearl River Resort. When in Dancing Rabbit, they said, Steve, they wanted to license a song and use it as their theme. So I had to go in and recreate 20 years ago. Well, we're going to put that version out now. I thought, what a great idea. And I have an album's worth of material ready to go, or I have a couple albums, but I'm going to focus on putting an EP out with it in the new year. But I've got an act I'm producing right now. He's 17 years old from Jonesboro. And the first song comes out January 13th. I've been writing with him, but trying to stay out as much writing of the process as possible and teaching him. And he's phenomenal. It's a mixture in my mind. He's an old soul meets new. It's Buddy Holly and Paul Simon and the Everly Brothers meets the band Fun, a little bit of Freddie Mercury at times, from Queen and the Avett Brothers.
So he's got a range.
And it's him, though. And we really captured him. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Where did he come from? Tell me about him.
Jonesboro, Arkansas. His name is Drew Pulliam. Nobody knows who he is right now. We're coming out of nowhere, and we're going to go somewhere. I feel I've got great help on our team, and we're just excited about him. He's wonderful. I mean, he's always got a guitar in his hand, plays piano. He's very theatrical in a way. And so, and I just love it. I love taking acts and taking them in such a stage of either chaos when they can't find themselves, because I've been there, or a place of infancy, like they're brand new. And then trying to help them skip 20 years of doing the wrong thing.
So he's got his version of Bohemian Rhapsody about to happen.
Well, his voice at times you go, oh my God, I'm overselling that, but there's things that remind you.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Anyway, I'm pretty excited about it. So in January, Mississippi will start hearing all about it.
I can't wait to learn more. But listen, man, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. You're a good friend, I'm proud of you for all your good work, and Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Love you, brother. Thank you. Later on, Cal, as always.
Yep. Take care.
You are the best. You are the best. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.
2023, baby.